to talk a little bit about what's a really good gift if you are a survivalist or prepper and you want to get somebody who's casually interested in it and they've gotten a little bit past the part of just playing the hostile psychoanalyst game with you of, how come you got all this stuff? How come you do that? What are you expecting to happen? Those types of hostile psychoanalytical games, and they have some interest. Well, realize they just may be enamored by the cool stuff, the gold coins or the guns or the night vision gear, or maybe you've got a modified bug-out vehicle that's a nice 4x4, and they think that maybe by associating with you or something, they get a part of that. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But in trying to get somebody on the program with long-term food preparedness so that they aren't going to, and you hope and you pray that they have not developed a long-term plan which involves becoming a burden on you, you want to get them started. You want to drop the hint, and you want to give them a gift which is hopefully going to be a little wiser. Now, right now, at the Mormon Canneries, which you'll have to look up online, and try to find the Mormon churches, ask them what's going on. They can be a little cagey about the locations of these places or who to be in contact with, so it takes a little bit of work. And you can get these kits for about the value of 1 ounce of silver right now. And one of these kits is roughly 1 ounce of silver. Interestingly enough, that price has remained relatively stable for quite a while. But a few years ago, these kits were actually more money than 1 ounce of silver. When silver was down around $6 an ounce, these cases were more than $6. So right now, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, it's a pretty good, fair deal. Just like James Yeager's been saying lately, other things are a good deal. He's talked about magazines, ammunition. The thing is, if you give those things away, or you stockpile them and people find out about it, those are items of value. Okay, that's something somebody can cash in, and then not only is that prep gone, but somebody starts thinking, okay, where can we get more of that? Believe me, I've had issues with stockpiling silver, and I really don't have very much of it. I've had issues with people wanting to get at it, wanting to know where it's stored. How do I? And it's amazing because you show them where the food is, and they don't seem to care, but they want to care where the valuables are. And that's where, you might actually have a drug addict on your hands. A drug addict can sound and reason like a very normal person, but their priority in life is their security and being able to get high, not feed themselves. They want to be able to get high and get happy with their social circles, and that's them, okay? Maybe if they're smart about it, they keep a few months' supply of their favorite dope around. But chances are the reason they got into their habits is because they're not very smart about it. And when you're trying to get other people involved, you never know if they're going to take the ball and run with it or not. So here's the smart way to do it. You're $23, $24. The other thing that's going to happen is they get a book with this kit that is some really basic Mormon Church doctrines. Now, they're Bible-based, okay? They're basic wisdom Bible-based. Whether or not you believe that Joseph Smith got all this stuff on some golden tablets in an attic somewhere, that's you, and that's a spiritual issue. But when you look at the Mormon Church doctrines on preparedness, it's just plain smart, common sense living. And I'm not a Mormon, okay? I'm just telling you what makes sense with these people. When sex professionals tell me about the birth control, and maybe one type's better than the other, or how to avoid diseases, I'm going to listen to them because maybe they've got a doctrine in their trade that makes sense for what they do. In the Mormon Church, for people that are trying to raise and sustain families, they have developed doctrines for things that make sense for what they do. What they talk about, and that's why when I have it in my videos, I'm not totally making this stuff up, okay? They talk about, you get these 3 pamphlets in here. And that's where if somebody has, total contempt and disrespect for you as a person, but they're happy enough to accept a gift from you, at least they're going to get some common sense. I might even entitle this video, the gift of common sense for non-preppers. But they're going to get these 3 pamphlets. If they're totally non-religious and they decide to go and join the Mormon Church, it'll probably improve them a little bit, okay? So on these 3 doctrine books, what we've got is we talk about food storage and then stuff on finances. But the catch-all book is really this one. And this is where they talk about their doctrines on having a 3-month supply of groceries at at home. And especially if you're responsible for a family. Nobody likes to have to hear sob stories about how you're not feeding your kids or you can't feed your kids. People just don't want to hear those sob stories, especially if you're pulling up to the food bank in a new car. Okay, I made a dumb choice. I was working on them. Yeah, great. Okay, a lot of that has to do with not being an embarrassment to your organization, because within the Mormon Church, at least here in Portland, Oregon, they do operate their own nonprofit grocery store for their own people, because they understand that when they're encouraging people to have more children and larger families, they can't always afford to support those kids in a sustainably comfortable lifestyle. Now, is a Mormon Church going to be giving them all Xboxes and new toys every month? No, they're not. But they will cover the food. They'll help give the people kind of a subsidized food plan without getting in line at the charity office. For those of us in the Patriot movement who are highly critical of the government, realize how hypocritical it is when you got a food stamp card in your back pocket. And I'm not going to totally downtrod somebody who's got that, because a lot of times the same government that puts them on the food stamps is the same government that is artificially restricting them from making a living. And so if you get a little payback on that's your adult choice, okay? I'm not going to totally downtrod you on that. But, running around and having to ask for charity because you didn't have a 3-month food supply of groceries, that's embarrassing. And you want to avoid that kind of embarrassment with your children, with people seeing you in town like that. So that's where this comes in. Drinking water. So much of our health has to do with clean drinking water. I live in a city that has pretty good drinking water. Out of my country place, that's something else I'm dealing with. Now, as far as preps on drinking water, not really subject to this video, but, you got Berkey water filters, you got other water filters, you got water storage, all that kind of stuff. But somebody's going to be able to get this information when you give them this gift. They get this information all in one place, so it at least explains a little bit about what they need to be thinking about on this, instead of hearing it from you only, okay? Financial reserve. Now, what they talk about is, some sort of a financial reserve. There's different ideas on that, and they kind of cover that in another one of their pamphlets. And then longer-term food supply. A lot of this would have to do with this person's role in something like a survival retreat or a survival group, something where you're going to get together and go longer term. Well, they need to be bringing something to the table, okay? They need to do that. When you look at the next pamphlet that they should be getting into, is where they look at some recipes involving this kit you just gave them. And one of the things they're going to start figuring out is, well, there's some additional things they need to get a hold of. Now, if you get a bunch of critical analysis from somebody who says, well, you didn't give me enough, I need more stuff. Well, great, pal, go shopping. I just got you started. That's how these things work. Okay? So, if I didn't give you enough, and you're watching this video, guess what? It's the hint. It's the answer that you should be hearing from this type of stuff when you give it to somebody is, hey, thanks, I already got a couple of those, but one more always helps. Or, hey, thanks, I already got a few of those, but I know somebody else this would really help out. Not going to hurt you to get more than one of these under your Christmas tree next year. Okay, not going to hurt you at all. Not going to hurt you to give a couple of these things away when somebody's become a newlywed or they've just had a baby. Okay, and you give it to them. They're either going to say, thanks, brother, I got a few, but one more always helps. Or they're going to say, hey, I really need to start thinking about this. I've got a family now. I've got to be responsible about this. And they may not thank you for it, but they're hopefully going to quietly go off and say, gee whiz, that guy was right. I need to start taking this stuff seriously. So, little recipe book. It's going to provoke some thought and action with these people. Okay? Now, the last thing is a lot of their financial doctrine and stuff on, getting a budget together. And that's, their stuff, okay, as far as all of that goes. And this is where it really gets into church membership. And it's kind of their thing as far as tithes and offerings and avoiding debt and using budgets and that sort of a thing. Again, within Mormon Church doctrine, they really don't want their own people going and asking for charity. They want their people to be seen as a upper middle level in their community who take responsibility and handle things. They actually are against really extravagant living, and so if somebody's like filthy rich, they expect them to put it to a function. And that gets a little bit more into church financial doctrine. But when somebody reads the book and they see this, it's good that they're not only hearing it from you. So that's it. That's my video about the Family Starter Pack from the Mormon Cannery and the Mormon Church, why it's a good idea, even if you're not a Mormon, or you're not trying to recruit for the Mormon Church. I'm not trying to recruit for the Mormon Church, but I'm telling you, you should get in contact with them, pick up a few of these, and use them as gifts for both preppers and non-preppers, but mostly non-preppers, non-survivalists in your life, or survivalists who you think might not have gotten their focus totally straight.